Okay, today we're going to be talking about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Here. It is probably what I've seen to be the most controversial Pokemon game, main series Pokemon game, in quite a while. There's a lot that, I personally agree with that has been put into it, that I feel like is, things that I've really wanted and things that I have longed for in a Pokemon game. But I know that the community doesn't all see it that way. So, here I am in defense of Pokemon. Now, there are lots of pros and cons to both sides of this, so I'm going to do my best to create a comprehensive list for you guys of what I think. I really enjoy the creativity that went into not only kind of creating an alternate form like they've been doing for the past few games, but actually putting in the effort to spice it up a little bit and make it something that's so far beyond just an alternate form and ends up being a really cool concept, like how the Paradox forms ended up. I like that they have both the past and future ones in their respective games. That adds a nice twist to make it where not only do you have your game-specific forms that you have to buy each individual game to obtain, but you actually have, like with Volcarona, you have the past form and the future form and the present form that are all obtainable, so you can have kind of the evolutionary timeline, not only, of like Larvesta to Volcarona, but the whole over time as it evolves and as it changes, theoretically, depending on what Paradox forms actually are. I like the concept. It's really cool to me. I think that's awesome to see coming out of such a long-running franchise, something new. I love the breeding mechanic. I love the sandwiches that you use that have like egg power and stuff like that. I personally have never used the food mechanic in Pokemon games before. Whenever I played, X and Y, Sun and Moon, all that, like Sword and Shield, I ignored all of those in order to kind of stay focused on what I knew and not delve into a deeper mechanic that I thought was really confusing and kind of useless. But it turns out, and this may just be a mistake of my own, but the mechanic is really useful, and it's helpful not only for breeding, but also for things like shiny hunting, and for getting certain drops that you want out of, whether it be Terra Raid battles or just going around and auto-battling things. Speaking of auto-battling, that is such a needed mechanic, and I'm so happy to see that introduced in the game in a way that not only makes things convenient, but also doesn't take away from the actual active aspect of it. It's not like you can set your Pokemon loose and just ignore the game as your team becomes level 100 over the course of a couple hours. You have to be an active participant, deciding where and when your Pokemon will battle, but also getting the convenience of not having to go through the whole entry and exit screen with every single battle. You get the best of both worlds, and I think the scaling of the EXP matches that pretty well. Next is the move relearning ability or feature of the game. To be able to customize your moveset entirely just straight out of your inventory, out of like your menu for each battle, is such an amazing feature that I wish we had sooner, and I wish was a part of the game the whole time. It adds such a dynamic level of what your Pokemon are that reflects, how they are in the anime and the manga and whatever in the games, and I really appreciate Game Freak adding that. I'm so glad it started in, I think the first time I saw it was in Arceus, but the first time I experienced it was there, and I'm so happy to have it. Next is having visible EVs and IVs. In order to try to create battle-perfect Pokemon, or if you're me and you're lazy, try to create just Pokemon that do a little bit better than average. It's nice to be able to see it, and it's, it takes it from it being impossible to perfectly EV and IV train your Pokemon without going through painstaking steps, to now anybody can EV and IV. Like, select your Pokemon for IVs and train for EVs. It's great. I love having that there. Ride Pokemon. Ride Pokemon. Ride Pokemon. Everything about it I think is very fun and comfortable, and I like that they, instead of just kind of teasing and like wagging the meat in front of you like, oh, you've got this legendary Pokemon that everybody's heard of and you've seen it on your cover of your game, but you don't get to see it in the game until the last 5 seconds. I'm so happy that they didn't do that. You get to not only experience the legendary Pokemon, the like poster Pokemon of the game the whole way through, or most of it, but you also get to be there alongside it as it grows and develops. And it's not like Sun and Moon with the Cosmog that's just kind of like halfway there, but also really not, and you don't really get to interact with. This is in your party. You know, it's not, you can't battle with it, but you get to take it around and see why it's a legendary Pokemon. See why it's weak enough that you can get it, and see why it's awesome and strong enough that you would need it and you would call it legendary. So I really like that. I like that it like eliminates the need for an HM Pokemon or taking up one of your party slots with a Pokemon or some of their moves with moves that you can't get rid of to just be able to get around. That seems like an awful mechanic. I hated it the whole time. I always had, you know, either like a Ditto or something, or like an unknown in my party just to fill with HM moves so that I could actually get to wherever I wanted to go on the map, and that sucked, you know? There's no reason you should need to take up some of your precious move slots that you don't get back with transport. And I was really happy to see Ride Pokemon in Sun and Moon. That was really nice, but I feel like the feature where you get to just ride your Miraidon or Koraidon all around the map is really useful, fun, and I loved getting to experience not only the like increasing mobility as you take down the Titans, but getting to see, you know, oh, you can choose to feed your Koraidon or Miraidon that sandwich and it will improve. Next, we are on to the cons, the things that I personally don't think are very good about the game. And there are some pretty big objective ones. It's really buggy. And not bug-type Pokemon, but it crashes, it lags. You have NPCs that as soon as you get about 5 feet away from them, they start moving at like a third speed. And they move really, really slow and blocky and jolty until they get right up next to you, and then they're moving so smooth and it looks so nice, and then they get 2 steps away and they start moving like a robot again. And it's infuriating to see, and I noticed it as soon as I started playing. In that same vein, crashes. I know I mentioned it for a second, but I went through like almost the entire game and I was like, what are people talking about? I haven't experienced a single crash on my Switch, you know? This, I don't see how that happens, you know? But then I got to where I was breeding, trying for a shiny Hisuian Zoroark, or Zoroa, from an egg, and it crashed on me as soon as I had a box full of eggs, and I was like, no, I gotta, and it's not that bad because of the wonderful breeding mechanics that they have in there, but it's a big inconvenience, and there's no way they should have released it like that. So it's disappointing, you know, it's not my favorite. The only other big issue I have with the games is that there is a DLC paywall. They added DLC in Sword and Shield, and I bought it. But when Heart Gold and Soul Silver came out, they gave you an entire extra region in that game, you know? With all of the different features and stuff that Pokemon has introduced in their games, you know, it's always been you buy the game and you play the game, and it's that simple, it's done. And then they introduced DLC, and that's where the big issue comes in. I feel like morally opposed to DLC content. I feel like if you're going to release a game, it should be a finished product, and it should just be ready to play. All of it should be there, and it should be an upfront cost. I feel like it's deceitful and kind of slimy not to do it that way. So final closing thoughts. I like the game. I like it a lot. I am going to buy every Pokemon game that comes out within my lifetime as long as I own the console. I don't want them to stop making them. You know, I don't have any huge complaints that I think are overwhelming. You know, it's going to be something that everybody's nostalgic for in 5 years. It's somewhere in the middle. You know, every installation is a cash grab because it's by a company. It's a big corporation that's making a ton of money. They have some stuff they could have done better, and I see that. But also, you know, it's good. It's really good. It has so many features that I've always wanted out of a Pokemon game. I dreamed of getting to walk around amongst the wild Pokemon and getting to have your Pokemon that you can just say, go battle that over there. And I got it. And I'm so happy to have it. And I'm so thankful and so grateful to Pokemon and Game Freak and Nintendo for being able to help me experience this throughout my life. That's kind of it.
Alert from. Your disk is almost full.
I know. You know, if you liked, go ahead and leave a like, whatever. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.